Hi, my name is Allison Galloway. This is my vlog post. Um, so we'll just jump right into it. The first question from the first section is, why do you think the Michelle Carter case received intense media attention? I think that there's a lot of reasons that this case received so much attention. They made a whole TV show about it called The Girl from Plainville. But I think that this case is a very rare case. A lot of people haven't heard of anything happening like this. And I think the idea that someone could so easily persuade someone else to do something so terrible just by sending them text messages was such a crazy idea to people. And it really concerned the population because the same way that they lose sleep at night thinking that someone could come into their house or do something like that, it's the same kind of idea where all it took was a text message from someone that wasn't even there to convince him to do something so terrible to himself. I think it also made people feel personally connected in that same way, and like it could happen to them if they were in a bad enough situation and they were with someone or talking to someone. How easily could they convince you? And then this case also brought up a lot of opinions. Was she at fault or not? Could words alone be considered the weapon? Was she guilty? And so a lot of people wanted to voice what they thought and what they know. And so it gained really quick attraction. The second question I wanted to answer was question number 3. And it says, should encouraging someone to commit suicide be a crime throughout the country? What are the arguments for and against this? I personally believe that encouraging someone to commit suicide should be a crime. I do believe in this case Conrad wouldn't have taken his own life if she hadn't convinced him to. He was showing a lot of remorse before, and when he was talking about his parents and how they had, or he felt guilty to be leaving them and all this stuff, and then she came in and she said, oh, I'll help them through it, like, you should just do it, is like that's crazy. I feel like this is the same argument a lot of people have been making with physician-assisted deaths. If you in any way hold someone's life in your hands, why would you want to help them end it? I do believe in cases like these, words are weapons. Though some people may look at it as he was going through a hard time no matter what, he was already contemplating it and he brought the idea up to her. Maybe even in a way she helped him get rid of that pain by convincing him to go through it. It is also odd that at first she was against him going through it and she kept saying, no, I need you here with me. And then suddenly she just changed her mind and the way that she was responding. Maybe he had convinced her it was a good idea, though I do still believe that in some way she thought she was going to gain the attention she's always craved. The way she was responding and the way that she had already convinced the people that she had around her that he had disappeared once before, a couple days earlier, and that she did get the attention she was looking for, and maybe that's when she started trying to convince him. We don't know for sure. But it's kind of the same way hypochondriacs want to be sick so people feel that concern for them and they have that sympathy. A lot of people crave sympathy and some people just don't get it and they'll find any way that they can. And then I wanted to talk about question 6. It says, Dr. Breggin, a witness for the defense, claimed Michelle Carter was suffering from involuntary intoxication from the medication she was taking for her own mental health issues. Do you agree with Dr. Breggin's assessment? If not, how would you explain why she sent those texts to Conrad Roy? I said that I don't believe that she was suffering from involuntary intoxication, because at first she was acting the way you would expect someone to act in this situation and going against Conrad's ideas. Like I said, she was telling him no, that she needed him there with her, that he needed to stay. It's a bad idea. She began by encouraging him not to go through with it and to stay there with her. This medication was meant to help her see the better side of life, not the opposite. Antidepressants are made to help people feel better, not to encourage them. You know, it has that opposite side effect than what he was trying to claim with the involuntary intoxication. I don't know what caused the switch in her response. Maybe his want to end his life became so constant that she got tired of trying to save him. Maybe once she realized she would gain so much attention, like I said, she changed her mind, and the presence of his life and hers became less important than the presence of others. Maybe there's something we don't see. Maybe texts that did get lost, where he somehow convinced her that killing himself was the best outcome for both of them. I don't think, though, that her medication was what led her to persuade him to go through with him taking his own life. Like I said, it's not very clear what is. It was weird the way that she suddenly switched the way that she was thinking. And then lastly for this section, the fourth question I wanted to answer was question number 7. Do you think Judge Moniz made the right decision in the case, including both the verdict and the sentence? I do think that the judge made the right decision in both cases. Michelle had said herself that she could have prevented his death because she knew about it, which is all that should have mattered. She knew, and she had the opportunity to tell his parents or the people that were closer to him in distance or in relations, and she chose not to for whatever reason. We don't know why. She had the text evidence. She could have showed them what he was saying, and even if it was weighing heavy on her, and that is why she changed her mind and convinced him to do it, she had the opportunity to take that and give it to somebody else that was more qualified to help him. She also eventually did encourage him to go through with it, and even seemed disappointed when he didn't, or he texts her back and she's like, why are you texting me back? You're supposed to have gone through with it. And I think that it was right of the judge to give her the opportunity to grow from this. While the judge himself admitted that he did not believe that her mental health or age were factors in the crime, he did give her the opportunity to rehabilitate. She was right on the line between, or right at the age where she was about to be an adult and things could have gone a lot differently for her. But the judge chose to acknowledge her juvenile rights, and he gave her a shorter sentence, or a short enough sentence that she had time to still live her life, but put her in prison long enough that she would have time to learn from what she did and receive that punishment side of things. And then he put her on parole long enough that she can be given the opportunity to learn how to rehabilitate into society and understand that what she did was wrong, and why, and how she can take that and learn and grow from it. And he gave her that opportunity. I 100% believe that. In the second section, I chose first to answer question 2. Approximately 77% of homicide victims are men. Does this surprise you? Why might many people think that there are more female victims than there actually are? The fact that more homicide victims are male does surprise me. That's not what we see on the news or in the media or on TV. It's not what we hear about. Whenever a crime committed is big enough to reach national news, it's usually about a woman being murdered by their spouse or a family member. On the rare occasion that someone is swept off the street and murdered at random is usually about a woman, because they are more targeted. They're what people usually want in those type of situations, especially when they're being trafficked or they are being murdered. So when we watch TV shows, that's what people pay attention to more. So that's what we see more. Because it's what intrigues the audience the most in a non-weird way. These all factor into leading society to believe that more women are murdered than men, which is sad because that's not the reality. The second question I chose to answer was question number 5. It says, when women commit homicide, their victim is rarely another woman. Why do you think this is true? And this has to go along with the last question. I believe it's the same when it comes to a spouse murdering a spouse or a partner murdering another partner. More women kill men because a lot of women who do kill someone are going to kill the person closest to them, which most of the time is a husband or boyfriend. They are also the people who trigger the women. There's obviously something wrong mentally. That doesn't give women the right to murder someone. But usually that is who lands her in this situation and who pushes her to crack. Another reason a woman might kill a man is in self-defense. Like I said, some men who are planning on committing homicide might have some dark fantasy and they're trying to play out, or they are going for an easier target, which leads them to go for women. In this case, a woman might kill a man trying to protect herself. More intruders are also likely to be men. So if a woman is trying to protect herself in her own home, it's most likely going to be against a man. The third question I wanted to answer was question 6. Which is more common in the United States, homicide or suicide? Do you think both of these problems receive equal attention? In the United States, suicide is more common. Though I think that homicide receives more attention. Understand that the news most commonly goes against broadcasting someone committing suicide out of respect for them and their families, which makes complete sense, and I don't think we should be broadcasting stuff like that. But this is usually how people get their information. So if they're not seeing it on their social media the way that they're seeing murders, then it's going to be less known and less thought about. People don't lie awake thinking about that. Like I said, like they do, an intruder might come in. I do think, though, that when it comes to receiving attention, there needs to be more equal concern. We know that murder is bad and it captures everyone's attention, but I think that people need to receive more knowledge about suicide rates and reminders to check in on those around them and know the signs and what they should be looking for when it comes to their friends and family's mental health. I do think we need to be more aware and that they should both receive that equal attention. And then lastly, for this second section, I answered question 8. How can understanding gender help us understand gender differences in suicide attempts and completed suicides? I think understanding gender helps us understand gender differences in suicide attempts and completed suicides when we understand how men and women experience and respond to distress in different ways. Women have more suicide attempt rates, while men have more suicide completion rates. Suicide is known as a permanent solution to a temporary problem. Usually when someone decides to commit suicide, it's something they've thought about, but when it comes down to actually going through with it, it's usually a result of some sort of trigger that helps them to decide that it's finally time and that this pain is too unbearable and that they do want to commit suicide. Women are more likely to reach this point, but men are more likely to succeed in going through with it. And this is because men choose more solidifying ways to go about it, while women choose ways that don't always succeed, which is why they'd have more attempts, but men have more suicide rates. Then the third section is from the DEAR section. What does DEAR mean by gender equity in traditional law, and what were pre-colonial responses to rape? How does the conversation of tribal rape law fit with our discussion of gender-based violence? So I said, when DEAR talks about gender equity in traditional law, she's referencing how past legal systems were more balanced when it came to gender roles. These legal systems had more protections for women, and they were better at handling gender-based violence, like we've been talking about. Tribal rape law is connected deeply to gender-based violence, and it highlights how certain aspects like gender shapes how societies respond to violence, especially violence that does have to do with women. And then the fourth section, article on Canvas, what is the legal loophole that prevents prosecutions on reservation? What are the intersections that come into play when discussing rape on reservations? I said the legal loophole that prevents prosecutions on reservation has to do with jurisdictional issues. These issues prevent justice for Native American women in cases of rape. This relates to gender-based violence in the sense that Native American women have undergone many hardships that make them more vulnerable because of the places that they came from and past traumas and these women also lack the resources needed in order to ensure justice for them, which makes it unfair and harder for them to go through cases like rape. But that was all of my discussion. So thank you.